Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are at. This is Dr. Diane Sanchez, and we're going to be discussing leadership ethics. The overview is leadership ethics perspective, ethical theories, principles of ethical leadership, diverse ethical perspectives, and how does the leadership ethical perspective work. So let's talk about the definition and theory. Ethics is defined as a derivative of the Greek word ethos, meaning customs, conduct, or character. Ethics is concerned with the kind of values and morals an individual or society ascribes as desirable or appropriate. And it focuses on the virtuousness of individuals and their motives. In regard to leadership, ethics has to do with what leaders do and who leaders are. So in any decision-making situation, ethical issues are either implicitly or explicitly involved. The choices leaders make and how they respond in any given circumstance are informed and directed by their ethics. The ethical theory provides a system of rules or principles as a guide in making decisions about what is right or wrong, or good or bad in a specific situation. Provides a basis for understanding what it means to be a morally decent human being. So stated another way, ethical theories, when applied to leadership, are about both the actions of the leaders and who they are as people. So, ethical theories that deal with, there's actually two kinds that deal with conduct of leaders are divided into two kinds. Theories that stress the consequences of leaders' actions and those that emphasize the duty or rules governing leaders. And you can see by this table the two. So the first one, consequences, it's teleological theories. And it's two of them, ethical egotism and utilitarianism. And then duty, which is deontological theories, really means the ends or the purpose. So let's go into the ethical egotism, utilitarianism, and altruism. And again, these are all under the conduct perspective. So, in assessing consequences, there's three types of approaches in making decisions regarding moral conduct. They're ethical egotism, utilitarianism, and altruism. Ethical egotism states that a person should act so as to create the greatest good for herself or himself. A leader with this orientation would take a job or a career that he or she selfishly enjoys. Ethical egotism is common in some business contexts in which the company and its employees make decisions to achieve its goal of maximizing profits. Excuse me. The second teleological approach is utilitarianism, which states that we should behave so as to create the greatest good for the greatest number. From this viewpoint, the morally correct action is the action that maximizes social benefits while minimizing social costs. And then closely related to utilitarianism is altruism. And its approach that suggests that actions are moral if their primary purpose is to promote the best interest of others. From this perspective, a leader may be called on to act in the interest of others, even when it runs contrary to his or her own self-interest. So here are the definitions. So these are the teleological theories focused on consequences of the leaders. And it's the ethical egotism that I stated, create greatest good for the leader. This is closely related to transactional leadership theories that we've learned in the previous chapters. Example, leader takes a political stand on an issue for no other reason than to get reelected. Utilitarianism, it creates the greatest good for the greatest number. Example, leader distributes scarce resources so as to maximize benefit to everyone while hurting the fewest, preventing health care versus a catastrophic illness. And then altruism, show concern for the best interest of others. Authentic transformational leadership is based on altruistic principles. For example, the work of Mother Teresa, who gave her entire life to help the poor. Okay, then let's talk about deontological theories. Duty-driven, for example, relates not only to the consequences, but also to whether action itself is good. And this focuses on the actions of the leader and his or her moral obligation and responsibilities to do the right thing. Example, telling the truth or keeping promises. All right, virtue-based theories. This is about the leader's character. So, we first discussed the consequences. Now we're going to discuss the virtue-based theories about the leader's character. That focuses on who people are as people. Rather than tell people what to do, tell people what to be. Help people become more virtuous through training and development. And virtues are present within person's disposition. Practice makes good values habitual. Examples, courage, honesty, fairness, justice, integrity, and humility. So, centrality of ethics to leadership. So the influence dimension of leadership requires the leader to have an impact on the lives of those being led. To make a change in other people carries with it an enormous ethical burden and responsibility. Because leaders usually have more power and control than followers, they also have more responsibility to be sensitive to how their leadership affects followers' lives. And leaders help to establish and reinforce organizational values. Ethics is central to leadership, and leaders really do help establish the organizational climate, organizational values. In short, ethics is central to leadership because of the nature of the process of influence, the need to engage followers in accomplishing mutual goals, and the impact leaders have on the organizational values. All right, so we've got Heifetz's perspective. He was a psychiatrist, and his observations and analysis were based on many world leaders like President Lyndon Johnson, Gandhi, so forth. And he formulated a unique approach to ethical leadership. His approach emphasizes how leaders help followers to confront conflict and to address conflict by effecting changes. His perspective is related to ethical leadership because it deals with values, the values of workers and the values of organizations, and communities in which they work. According to Heidfetz, leadership involves the use of authority to help followers deal with the conflicting values that emerge in rapidly changing work environments and social cultures. It is an ethical perspective because it speaks directly to the values of the workers. So, his perspective is leaders use authority to mobilize their followers by get people focused on issues, act as a reality test regarding information, managing and framing issues, orchestrate conflicting perspectives, and facilitate the decision-making process. Hertzberg's perspective also is that leaders use authority, like we said, to mobilize followers in all of these areas that we stated, but the leader provides a holding environment, a supportive context in which there is trust, nurturance, and empathy. And the leader's duty is to assist the follower in struggling with change and personal growth. All right, let's talk about Burns' perspective. And Burns' perspective is the theory of transformational leadership plays a strong emphasis on followers' needs, values, and morals. Transformational leadership involves attempts by leaders to move followers to higher standards of moral responsibility. So there's a strong emphasis on the followers' needs, values, and morals. Leaders help followers in their personal struggles concerning conflicting values, stresses values such as liberty, justice, and equality. And there's a connection between the leader and the follower, which raises a level of morality for both. And as the leader's role, they assist followers in, again, assessing their values and needs, and helps the followers to rise to a higher level of functioning. All right, so ethics is central to leadership because of these 5 principles: the process of influence, the need to engage followers to accomplish mutual goals, the impact leaders have on establishing the organizational values, and they do it with these 5 really leadership principles, and we'll dive into each one of them. So, respect first, treating others as ends, their own goals, rather than as a means to the leader's goals. So respect for others is a complex ethic that is similar to, but goes deeper than the kind of respect that parents teach little children. Respect means that a leader listens closely to subordinates, is empathetic, and is tolerant of opposing points of view. And so the leadership will treat others, people's values and decisions with respect, allow others to be themselves with creative wants and desires, and approach others with a sense of unconditional worth and value individual differences. So, serves others. This is a principle, clearly an example of altruism. Leaders who serve are altruistic. They place their followers' welfare foremost in their plans. In the workplace, altruistic service behavior can be observed in activities such as mentoring, empowerment behaviors, team building, and citizenship behaviors. So, the leader has a duty to help others pursue their own legitimate interests and goals. They're stewards of the organization's vision in serving others. They clarify, nurture, and integrate the vision with, not for organization members, an ethical responsibility to make decisions that are beneficial to the followers' welfare. Okay, showing justice. Ethical leaders are concerned with the issues of fairness and justice. They make it a top priority to treat all of their subordinates in an equal manner. Justice demands that leaders place issues of fairness at the center of their decision-making. As a rule, no one should receive special treatment or special consideration except when his or her particular situation demands it. When individuals are treated differently, the grounds for different treatment must be clear and reasonable and must be based on moral values. So these leaders adhere to distributive justice. And these are the principles of distributive justice. These principles are applied in different situations, but to each person an equal share or opportunity, according to each individual need, according to that person's rights, according to the individual effort, according to the societal contribution, and according to the merit or performance. And these common principles serves as guides for leaders in distributing the benefits and burdens fairly in an organization. Although not inclusive, these principles point to the reasoning behind why leaders choose to distribute things as they do in organizations. All right, honesty. You know, when we were children, we were told never tell a lie. To be good meant we must be truthful. For leaders, the lesson is the same. To be a good leader, one must be honest. So, leaders are not deceptive. They tell the truth with a balance of openness and candor while monitoring what is appropriate to disclose in a particular situation. Leaders don't promise what they can't deliver. They don't suppress obligations. They don't evade accountability. They don't accept survival of the fittest pressures, and they acknowledge and reward honest behavior in the organization. And then lastly, the ethical leaders build community. And we've defined leadership as a process whereby an individual influences a group of individuals to achieve a common goal. This definition has clear ethical dimensions because it refers to a common goal. And a common goal requires that the leader and followers agree on the direction to be taken by the group. So the leader's behavior takes into account purposes for everyone in the group, is attentive to the interests of the community and the culture, does not force others to ignore intentions of others. And the ethical leaders and followers take into account purposes for everyone in the group, and they reach out beyond their own mutually defined goals to the wider community. So, how does the ethical leadership perspective work? We'll discuss strengths, criticism, and application. First of all, the strengths of these leadership theories is it provides a body of timely research on ethical issues. It provides direction on how to think about ethical leadership and how to practice it. It suggests that leadership is not an amoral phenomenon and that ethics should be considered as integral to the broader domain of leadership. Highlights principles and virtues that are important in ethical leadership development. The criticism, it lacks a strong body of traditional research findings to substantiate the theoretical foundations, and it relies heavily on writings of just a few individuals that are primarily descriptive and anecdotal in nature and are strongly influenced by personal opinion and a particular worldview. The application of these theories can be applied to individuals at all levels of the organization and in all walks of life. Because leadership has a moral dimension, being a leader demands awareness on our part of the way our ethics define our leadership. Managers and leaders can use information on ethics to understand themselves and strengthen their own leadership. Leaders can use ethical principles as benchmarks for their own behavior. And leaders can learn that leader-follower relationship is central to ethical leadership. I hope you have found this webcast helpful. If you have any questions, by all means, please put it out on the discussion board. Thanks for attending.